this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare two medium to large wireless gaming mice, the Corsair Sabre Pro RGB Wireless and the Roccat Kone Pro Air. These are two semi-lightweight gaming mice with wireless, Bluetooth and wired connectivity and some interesting features that make them worth talking about. Now, I've unboxed and reviewed both these mice separately, and I'll link to those videos in the description where I go into a lot of depth about the software and other things, but here I'm going to talk to you about the differences between them, what I like and don't like about them. As you'll see, they are quite different in their design style and the overall look and feel of them. The Roccat Kone Pro Air is available in two different colours, and the white one is particularly striking. It's also quite slick by comparison to the Corsair, with a very smooth surface apart from some slight texturing on the left hand side. Now, as I said, these are two reasonably large mice, so ideal for those with larger hands, which is me. So they're a perfect fit for me and a wonderful setup. I really like the Sabre Pro Wireless. This is a comfortable mouse and actually very nice in a number of different ways. This weighs in at 79 grams, which is a smidge heavier than the Kone Pro Air, which is 75 grams. And it has 100% PTFE feet, and as I said, is capable of 2.4 gigahertz wireless, has Bluetooth 4.2 and low energy, and a USB-C connection. You'll note on the underside, you have a button for switching between profiles. You can have up to 5 onboard profiles stored in the memory. It has a USB dongle which can be stored on that little dock on the underside. And it has just 2 RGB lighting zones on the logo and a little LED indicator on the top next to the DPI switching button that lets you know what DPI level you're currently set at. So not terribly much in the way of funky RGB lighting. Now, this mouse has up to 90 hours battery life over Bluetooth or 60 hours using the Slipstream wireless connection. So not masses when you look at the Roccat Kone Pro Air that has up to 100 hours of battery life plus rapid recharge using the USB-C cable. The Sabre Pro Wireless for some reason doesn't have a braided USB-C cable. It's just a standard rubber one, so it's not terribly fancy. It is easy enough to plug in though, and so when you need to charge you can quite easily. So it's not terrible, but unfortunately I didn't go for a lightweight floppy cable like a lot of the lightweight mice that are out there usually offer, and that is something that the Kone Pro Air does have, so it does have a bit more of a flexible cable to it. What you'll notice immediately as well is that the Kone Pro Air has some interesting RGB lighting that basically shines through the left and right mouse buttons at the very front. So under the outer shell it has like a honeycomb design, and that's how it has its lightweight finish. And you'll see that the RGB lighting glows through the front there. It's flashing blue because it's actually in Bluetooth mode now, so it's in Bluetooth pairing mode, and that's how you know that's set up. But once you have it in the wireless mode with a little dongle that's docked at the bottom there, you can then set up Roccat's AMO intelligent RGB lighting. You get a really nice glow from it, and it's actually one of my favourite mice in terms of the RGB lighting that it offers, because it's so unusual, and to have that glow on your fingertips rather than on your palm. Close-up look, and also you'll see the machined aluminium mouse wheel, which I'm not really a fan of, but it is quite large, and that's one of the things I like about this mouse. It's large and it's proud and it's just showing off in various ways. I like the large side buttons, for example. They are very easy to access and comfortable. Now, this has that Bluetooth and wireless connectivity option as well, and it has a max DPI of 19,000. Whereas the Corsair Sabre Pro has 26,000, adjustable in 5 different stages using that DPI button on top. You'll note there's no DPI switching button on the Roccat mouse, but this mouse does have optical switches, so you do have that longevity and fast actuation through those switches as well. And it uses Roccat's Owl-Eye optical sensor, which is based on the Pixart PAW3370. I'll leave all the specifications in the description so you can compare them on paper. But what I want to do is give you a visual representation of the differences between them. You'll note that the Roccat Kone Pro Air also has some really large PTFE areas. So it's lightweight, it's slick, it's agile, it's easy to move around the desk, and it also has the optical switches, which mean it actuates really quickly and accurately and gives you a good response as well. Nice large mouse that fits nicely in the hand and pushes up into your palm, so it's got a good design for a palm grip, and I thoroughly enjoyed the feel of it. As I said, it doesn't have a particularly rough texture or particularly grippy design to it though. With the wired version, I oddly found it quite slippery, but the wireless one isn't too bad. There's some subtle lines that run along the side of the mouse where your thumb sits, and they offer some amount of grip to the mouse, so it's not too slippery. It looks a lot slicker than it actually is. This thing has decent wireless battery life, and it also has fast charging via the USB-C connection as well, so it's fairly easy to plug in and get a charge when you want to. So what you're seeing is the Roccat Kone Pro Air is a decent mouse and a really nice looking one, and has plenty of nice features to it. The Sabre Pro RGB Wireless might be my favourite though, for a number of reasons. Firstly, it has a sort of rough textured finish to it, which is particularly noticeable on the main buttons. So it's not too rough in the hand, but rough enough that you can feel it and grip onto it really nicely. It has a fairly understated design. As I said, there's only 2 RGB lighting zones, so if RGB is your thing, then this mouse might not be for you. The thumb buttons on the side are nice and large and easy to access and easy to feel, which is one of the reasons I like the Kone Pro Air as well, because they both have large side buttons which are easy to get hold of and easy to play with, and that is obviously a bonus. You also have DPI switching button on the Corsair mouse, and this mouse has Corsair's Quick Strike 0 gap buttons, which are set up with Omron switches, and Omron have a sort of mixed reputation for double click issues over time, but initially have some really nice click response from these switches and a really nice setup. It's basically pre-tensioned so that you have an actuation really quickly and you get a good response from it. Now the Corsair Sabre Pro, the wired version, is designed to work with NVIDIA's Reflex Latency Analyzer, so it offered some really high specs for an affordable price, and I've done a video separately on this. This mouse doesn't have that same functionality, but it does have some improved specifications. It is also a very nice mouse to game with. Both of them are quite interesting in different ways. I really like the RGB lighting on the Kone Pro Air. It's also particularly lightweight and just flies about thanks to those large PTFE zones. And it's striking in its design, where the Kone Pro Air is quite in your face with its overall look and feel. The Corsair Sabre is quite understated. I think it looks a lot cheaper than it actually is, but it certainly doesn't feel it or play like it either. This might be one of my favourite wireless mouse of late. It's certainly much better performer than it is a looker. It works well in gaming. I found it really good for playing fast-paced games where you need to have slick and quick movements and yet still have good accuracy. So I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege with it, getting guns down on sight on the enemy as quick as possible. This mouse hasn't let me down. Also found there's no horrible play in the mouse buttons, and because of that quick strike design, they just actuate when you need them to. The mouse wheel also is satisfying to use, where I really didn't like the one on the Kone Pro Air. I found it a little bit just uncomfortable. It's hard to describe and put across in words how I felt about it, but it just isn't a terribly pleasant mouse wheel on the fingertips. It doesn't give a good response. It just doesn't feel very nice. Interestingly to the eye, that rough texture on the Sabre Pro doesn't look great. I don't find it visually appealing, but actually on the fingertips it feels really good because it's just, you have that sort of response and the feel from the grip, so your fingers aren't going to easily slip about on it. This is seemingly more prominent on the buttons than it is on the shell itself, but you'll notice that same sort of matte finish plastic is through the majority of the mouse, so it really doesn't slip around in the hand, which is obviously very important if you're playing fast-paced games and you want to make the most of the action. So what you're seeing is 2 wonderful lightweight mice with fantastic features and some appeal for different reasons. I think they're both great options, both relatively affordable. I personally feel like the Corsair is the better of the 2. and a bit more responsive and delivers a bit better results. However, I certainly wouldn't speak badly of the Kone Pro Air. I feel like this is a really well designed mouse, really agile, really good looking. The RGB lighting is fantastic and it's great to game on. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.